Do you still remember Bonanza? 67 years ago, it introduced the Cartwright family and changed television forever. But by 2026, the cast's real lives reveal heartbreak, sudden deaths, and shocking twists. Let's see where they are now. Some are almost impossible to recognize. Dan Blocker as Eric Hoss Cartwright. Dan Blocker was the actor who played Eric Hoss Cartwright, the gentle giant and loyal middle brother of the Cartwright family. He was 30 years old when he became the warm heart of the story, the kind-hearted brother whose strength and compassion balanced the entire family dynamic. That towering presence and soft personality made Hoss one of the most beloved figures on television. Blocker died at just 43 years old on May 13, 1972, after suffering a pulmonary embolism following gallbladder surgery at Daniel Freeman Hospital in Inglewood, California. The blood clot traveled to his lungs shortly after the operation and took his life suddenly. He was later buried in the family plot at Woodman Cemetery in DeKalb, Texas, where a simple stone marked his resting place beside members of his family. Yet behind the friendly image of Hoss was a man whose body constantly struggled under the strain of his massive size. Weighing more than 130 kilograms, Blocker often dealt with painful joints and physical exhaustion after long days of riding horses during filming. Despite the discomfort, he remained one of the most grounded and approachable members of the cast, known among colleagues as the kind of man you could easily share a beer with after work. Away from the camera, he built a quiet family life with his wife Dolphia Parker, raising 4 children, including Dirk Blocker, who would later become a well-known television actor. And when Blocker died, the impact on the show was devastating. The loss shocked the entire cast and crew so deeply that the writers made an unprecedented decision. They acknowledged the death of Hoss within the story itself, something television had almost never done before. The following season struggled without the character, and many fans believed the series was never the same again. Off-screen, Blocker had been a passionate supporter of political causes and a devoted father, while also enjoying fast cars and performance racing machines. His estimated net worth was about $5 million, but the role he left behind, the big man with the even bigger heart, remains unforgettable. Michael Landon as Joseph Little Joe Cartwright. Michael Landon was the actor behind Joseph Little Joe Cartwright, the fiery and impulsive youngest son of the Cartwright family. He was 22 years old when he became the emotional spark of the story, the rebellious brother whose courage and temper often drove the drama forward. That energy turned Little Joe into one of the most beloved characters in television Western history. Sadly, Landon died at 54 years old on July 1, 1991, after a brutal battle with pancreatic cancer that advanced with terrifying speed. The disease had already spread to surrounding tissues and blood vessels by the time doctors discovered it. He passed away in Malibu, California, with his wife beside him, and was later buried in a private mausoleum at Hillside Memorial Park Cemetery in Culver City. Yet the path that led him there was full of turmoil. Born Eugene Orowitz, Landon endured a deeply traumatic childhood in a home filled with arguments and instability. His mother struggled with severe mental illness and attempted suicide multiple times in front of him, experiences that left emotional scars that followed him into adulthood. Landon later admitted he struggled with heavy smoking and alcohol use, habits that he believed contributed to the cancer that eventually took his life. Despite those battles, he transformed himself into one of television's most powerful creative figures, later creating and starring in Little House on the Prairie and Highway to Heaven. And his personal life was just as dramatic as his career. Landon married 3 times and became the father of 9 children, including several adopted children. His longest marriage to Marjorie Lynn No lasted nearly 2 decades before collapsing in a storm of controversy when he left her to marry Cindy Clerico, a makeup artist from the Little House on the Prairie set who was 20 years younger. The decision shocked fans and sparked rumors that Landon could be controlling on set, determined to oversee everything from scripts to lighting. Even with the criticism, he remained one of television's most successful creators and performers. His estimated net worth was around $40 million. Lorne Greene as Ben Cartwright. Lorne Greene was the actor who played Ben Cartwright, the wise and commanding father of the Cartwright family. He was 44 years old when he became the steady center of the story, the calm leader whose authority held the family together through danger and conflict. That powerful presence made Ben Cartwright one of the most respected father figures ever portrayed on television. Greene died on September 11, 1987, at the age of 72, after suffering complications from pneumonia following surgery. What was expected to be a routine medical procedure suddenly turned fatal when infection spread through his body. He passed away at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica and was laid to rest at Hillside Memorial Park Cemetery in Culver City. But long before that tragic ending, Greene carried the heavy weight of fame. Known across America as the ultimate television father, he once admitted that the public image of Ben Cartwright sometimes felt like a prison. Audiences expected him to be wise, calm, and morally perfect at all times. Meanwhile, his first marriage to Rita Hands slowly deteriorated after 22 years, as the demands of Hollywood and his relentless work schedule left his wife feeling increasingly isolated from his growing celebrity. Still, Greene refused to remain trapped in one role. After Bonanza, he continued acting and reached a new audience with the science fiction series Battlestar Galactica, proving his voice and presence still commanded the screen. Away from the camera, he lived a quieter family life with his second wife, Nancy Deal, with whom he had another child. By the time of his passing, his fortune was estimated at about $10 million. But the role he left behind remains one of the most enduring legacies in television history. Victor Sen Yung as Hop Sing. Victor Sen Yung was the actor who played Hop Sing, the sharp-tongued but loyal cook and caretaker of the Cartwright household. He was 44 years old when he became the unforgettable kitchen guardian whose humor and fiery personality in the family ranch. That lively presence turned Hop Sing into one of the most beloved supporting characters in the series. Sen Yung died at the age of 65. His body discovered on November 9, 1980. Inside his North Hollywood home after a natural gas leak poisoned the air while he was firing pottery in an oven. Investigators later believed he had already been dead for nearly 10 days, likely since around October 31st. His funeral was arranged and paid for by his former co-star Pernell Roberts, and he was laid to rest at Green Lawn Memorial Park in Colma, California. Yet long before that heartbreaking end, Sen Yung had already lived an extraordinary and often difficult life. As a Chinese-American actor working in early Hollywood, he constantly faced typecasting and limited roles. Still, he built a steady career, first gaining fame as Jimmy Chan in the popular Charlie Chan films, appearing in 11 movies before World War II. He even served in the U.S. Army Air Forces during the war, acting in training films and stage productions for the military before returning to Hollywood. But perhaps the most shocking moment of his later life came in 1972, when he survived a terrifying airplane hijacking on Pacific Southwest Airlines Flight 710. During the FBI rescue operation, gunfire erupted inside the aircraft and Sen Yung was shot in the lower back, leaving him seriously wounded, but alive. In the years that followed, he struggled with medical bills and declining finances while living mostly alone. Despite being remembered by millions as the cheerful Hop Sing, his fortune at the time of his death was reportedly less than $100,000. Pernell Roberts as Adam Cartwright. Pernell Roberts was the actor who portrayed Adam Cartwright, the intelligent and thoughtful eldest brother of the Cartwright family. He was 31 years old when he became the intellectual voice of the story, the educated son whose logic and independence often challenged his father's authority. That quiet strength made Adam one of the most complex characters in the Cartwright household. Yet Roberts's relationship with the show that made him famous was far more turbulent than fans ever realized. He died at 81 years old on January 24, 2010, after battling pancreatic cancer. Roberts passed away peacefully in Malibu, California, and his death marked the end of the last surviving member of the original Cartwright family. But long before his death, Roberts had already shocked Hollywood with a decision few actors would dare to make. Despite the enormous success of the series, he openly criticized the show, once calling it commercial junk, and frequently argued with writers about how the educated Adam was portrayed. Feeling creatively trapped, he walked away from the show while it was still wildly popular, abandoning what many believed was a guaranteed fortune in favor of theater work that paid far less. Hollywood insiders at the time described the move as career suicide, and while his professional life was full of bold decisions, his personal life carried deeper pain. Roberts married 4 times, but the greatest tragedy came in 1989 when his only son Jonathan died in a motorcycle accident. The loss devastated him and pushed him into a far more private life during his later years. Even so, he continued acting in projects like Mannix and later television appearances, and he remained active in documentaries and narration work. Roberts often joked in his final years that he was Pernell, the last one, Roberts, after all his former co-stars had passed away. His estimated net worth was around $10 million. Guy Williams as Will Cartwright. Guy Williams was the actor who played Will Cartwright, a mysterious relative of the Cartwright family who briefly entered their story. He was 40 years old when he became a new presence in the Cartwright world, a handsome outsider whose arrival was meant to bring fresh energy to the family saga. For a moment, it looked like he might become an important new figure in the series. Williams died at 65 years old, his body discovered on May 6, 1989, inside his apartment in Buenos Aires, Argentina. An autopsy later revealed he had died about a week earlier from a ruptured brain aneurysm. Because he had been living alone, no one realized he had passed away until neighbors noticed something was wrong. After his death, his ashes were kept for 2 years in La Chacarita Cemetery in Buenos Aires, before finally being scattered over the Pacific Ocean in Malibu, according to his wishes. Yet Williams's career had once seemed unstoppable. Long before his short time in the Cartwright story, he had become famous worldwide as Zorro in the classic Disney series, and later as Professor John Robinson in Lost in Space. But Hollywood's success was not always kind. When he briefly appeared in the Western saga, rumors spread that his striking good looks created tension behind the scenes, with some believing his presence threatened the popularity of other stars on the show. Eventually, Williams grew tired of the politics of Hollywood and chose a completely different life. In the late 1970s, he moved to Argentina, where he was adored by fans who still saw him as the legendary Zorro. There, he lived quietly in Buenos Aires, occasionally appearing in public events, and even helping create a traveling circus show with a local fencing champion. Despite the admiration he received there, his final years were largely solitary. At the time of his death, his estimated net worth was around $2 million. Ray Teal as Sheriff Roy Coffey. Ray Teal was the actor who played Sheriff Roy Coffey, the stern but steady lawman who stood as the local guardian of order around the Cartwright's world. He was 58 years old when he became the firm hand of justice in the story. Roy Coffey never needed flashy scenes to matter. His quiet force made him essential. Teal died at 74 years old on April 2, 1976, of natural causes in Santa Monica, California. He had given nearly 40 years to film and television, then slipped away with the same quiet modesty that defined much of his career. Still, his professional life tells a more striking story than many viewers realize. Teal became one of the most heavily used character actors of his era, playing lawmen, gunmen, judges, gangsters, and authority figures so often that he was said to have portrayed police-type roles hundreds of times. That made him a legend of dependability, but it also carried a quiet frustration. He was admired everywhere, yet rarely allowed to stand at the center. Instead, Hollywood kept returning to him whenever it needed strength, realism, and credibility without ever fully rewarding him with top billing. And that is what gives his story its bittersweet edge. Before acting consumed his life, Teal had been a musician and bandleader, building an entirely different path for himself before the screen pulled him in. He later appeared in films such as The Best Years of Our Lives and Judgment at Nuremberg, showing he could do far more than Western roles, yet audiences still remembered him most as Sheriff Roy Coffey. He lived a stable private life with his wife Louise, avoiding the public chaos that followed so many actors of his generation. His estimated net worth was about $1.5 million. David Canary as Candy Canady. David Canary was the actor who played Candy Canady, the dependable and quick-thinking foreman and trusted ranch hand who became almost like family to the Cartwrights. He was 29 years old when he became the fresh new force in the story. Candy's toughness, loyalty, and quiet charm quickly made him far more than a replacement figure. Canary died at 77 years old on November 16, 2015, after living for years with dementia. He passed away at an assisted living facility in Wilton, Connecticut, ending a long career that had stretched from Western television to daytime drama superstardom. Even so, the real shock in his story came much earlier. At the height of his time on the Ranch series, Canary walked away in 1970 because of a salary dispute, a blunt reminder of how ruthless Hollywood could be, even to a beloved supporting star. That exit was not just a career move, it showed how quickly loyalty could collide with money in the television business. He later returned after Dan Blocker's death, and that return carried emotional weight because the show itself was already wounded. Beyond the Western world, Canary refused to remain trapped in one image. He went on to build an astonishing second act in All My Children, where his dual performance as Adam and Stuart Chandler earned him 16 Daytime Emmy nominations and 5 wins, turning him into a daytime television legend. And what makes his life story even more impressive is how much talent he carried before acting fully took over. He had been a standout football player, earned a music degree, and was even drafted by the Denver Broncos, yet he turned away from sports to chase acting instead. He also appeared in films and series like Hombre and Peyton Place. Through it all, he was known as warm and gracious with fans, a rare quality in an industry that often hardens people. His estimated net worth was around $5 million. Mitch Vogel as Jamie Hunter Cartwright. Mitch Vogel was the actor who played Jamie Hunter Cartwright, the lonely adopted son and younger boy in the Cartwright family. He was 12 years old when he became the fresh emotional center the series badly needed. That innocent face and freckled charm made Jamie unforgettable, even as some viewers never fully accepted him. As of 2026, Mitch Vogel is 70 years old, and unlike many former child stars, he chose a life far away from Hollywood's spotlight. After spending years as one of the most recognizable young faces on television, he quietly stepped away and built a far more private life in Southern California. Today, he remains married to Christine Gilles, is the father of 2 daughters, and continues directing church productions, singing in a rock band, and occasionally appearing at Bonanza events. Still, the real shock is how quickly the public turned on him. Mitch had already impressed audiences in Yours, Mine, and Ours, and then earned major attention in The Reavers, where even a Golden Globe nomination followed his performance. That should have launched him into an even bigger career. Instead, when he became Jamie, many viewers saw him not as a gifted young actor, but as the boy brought in to fill the emotional space left behind by older cast changes. That backlash created enormous pressure on him at a very young age. And for a child actor, that kind of rejection can cut far deeper than people realize. And that is what makes his story so unexpectedly sad. Mitch did not spiral into scandal, addiction, or tabloid disaster. He simply walked away before the industry could crush him further. He later reunited with Michael Landon for a few episodes of Little House on the Prairie, but by his early 20s he had already chosen peace over fame. In a way, that decision was its own quiet rebellion. His estimated net worth is around $2 million. Bing Russell as Deputy Clem Foster. Bing Russell was the actor who played Deputy Clem Foster, the loyal town deputy and steady lawman who often stood beside Sheriff Roy Coffey in keeping order around the Cartwright's world. He was 35 years old when he became the dependable presence helping protect the community. Even without being a central character, Clem Foster added realism and familiarity to the everyday life of the series. Russell died at 76 years old on April 8, 2003, after suffering complications from cancer in Thousand Oaks, California. His passing closed the chapter on a long career that had quietly touched dozens of classic television shows. Yet long before the cameras found him, Russell's life had already taken a dramatic turn. As a young man, he dreamed of a future in professional sports, but a serious head injury shattered those plans and forced him to abandon athletics completely. That painful setback pushed him toward acting instead, a choice that slowly opened the door to Hollywood. Over the years, he appeared in a remarkable number of television series, including The Twilight Zone, The Fugitive, Gunsmoke, The Munsters, and Little House on the Prairie, building a reputation as one of television's most reliable supporting actors. And in a surprising twist, Russell later created an entirely different legacy outside acting. In the 1970s, he became the owner of the independent baseball team Portland Mavericks, turning the struggling club into a cult legend by giving overlooked players one last chance to play the game they loved. The team's story was eventually immortalized in the documentary The Battered Bastards of Baseball, proving Russell's impact reached far beyond Hollywood. Despite his long career and entrepreneurial spirit, his estimated net worth remained modest at around $3 million. Tim Matheson as Griff King. Tim Matheson was the actor who played Griff King, the troubled, paroled young ex-con trying to rebuild his life under Ben Cartwright's guidance. He was 25 years old when he became the story's last major redemption figure. Griff was not just another ranch hand. He was written as proof that even a broken man could still fight for a second chance. As of 2026, Tim Matheson is 78 years old, and he is still one of the most successful figures ever to pass through the Bonanza world. After decades in front of and behind the camera, he remains active as an actor and director, best known in recent years for playing Doc Mullins in Virgin River, while continuing to be respected for his long directing career in television. Even so, the path to that late success was far messier than it first appears. Matheson had been working since childhood, with early visibility in projects like Yours, Mine, and Ours and the voice role in Johnny Quest. But Bonanza was only a brief stop in a much longer and more unpredictable career. His personal life carried its own strain. He married 3 times, and his divorce from Megan Murphy after 25 years reportedly hit him both emotionally and financially. That kind of breakup, after building a whole adult life with someone, can shake far more than a bank account. Yet instead of fading out, Matheson kept evolving, moving from actor to filmmaker to steady television veteran, and that is what makes his story surprising. A man who spent only a short time in the Bonanza universe ended up outlasting many bigger stars and reinventing himself again and again. He appeared in Animal House, earned Emmy attention for The West Wing, directed episodes of major shows like Suits, Criminal Minds, and Burn Notice, and then found a whole new generation through Virgin River. What looked like a minor Western role became just one chapter in one of the most durable careers of them all. His estimated net worth is about $10 million. Grandon Rhodes as Dr. J.P. Martin. Grandon Rhodes was the actor who portrayed Dr. J.P. Martin, the calm and reliable town doctor who often appeared when the Cartwright family or the townspeople needed medical help. He was already an experienced performer when he became the reassuring medical voice within the story. His composed delivery and dignified appearance made the character feel like a true frontier physician. But Rhodes's final years carried a quiet sadness rarely seen by the public. He died at the age of 82 on June 9, 1987, in Encino, California, after a long life in the entertainment world. By that time, much of Hollywood had already moved on, leaving one of its longtime character actors to fade quietly into history. Still, his career once spanned an astonishing range of stages and screens. Before television made him recognizable, Rhodes built his craft in repertory theater across North America, performing in cities like Montreal, Omaha, and Hartford. He even appeared on Broadway, acting in productions such as Abe Lincoln in Illinois and Antony and Cleopatra. Later, he became a familiar face on television, portraying not only the doctor in the Western series, but also a judge in Perry Mason and the wealthy banker Chester Vanderlip on the George Burns and Gracie Allen show. Yet success never quite brought him the fame many believed he deserved. In his later years, Rhodes found himself increasingly forgotten by an industry that had once relied heavily on his dependable performances. He survived largely on actors' union support and small background roles. His estimated net worth at the time of his passing was around $1 million. More than 67 years after Bonanza first rode onto television screens, the lives of its cast reveal stories far deeper than the adventures on the Ponderosa. Some became legends, some faced heartbreaking struggles, and others quietly disappeared from the spotlight. Which Bonanza cast story surprised you the most after all these years? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed revisiting the journey of the Bonanza 1959 cast, then and now 2026, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more unforgettable Hollywood stories.